Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And in this video, I want to do another kind of deep dive on the filmography of a certain director. This time, I'm going to rank the movies of Mel Brooks, movies that Mel Brooks has directed. Overall, he has directed 11 movies, so not a huge filmography, fairly easy to get through. And Mel Brooks is one of my favorite comedy directors. Definitely up there as one of the great comedic directors, starting in the late 60s and 67 with his movie The Producers. Before he even directed, though, he started off as a writer for the Sid Caesar Show of Shows, which was one of the biggest kind of comedy sketch shows, I guess, of probably the 50s, 60s period. Anyway, so it was a huge show, and he was amongst other comedy legends like Woody Allen, Neil Simon, and Carl Reiner. Him and Carl Reiner especially bonded and did a lot of sketches on the show. So not only was he a really good comedy writer, he was also actually a pretty good comedy actor as well. Acted a lot in that stuff anyway. So he started that way. He also started a TV show, Get Smart, with Buck Henry, which was one of my favorite TV shows of that period. Kind of a James Bond spoof. Anyways, but then he went into directing, and also I believe he wrote all of the screenplays to all the movies. He wrote or co-wrote all the screenplays to his movies. So he's definitely one of those great writer-directors that we've had. And not only did he direct and write, but he usually either starred or co-starred or even had just a little small part in the movie. So he definitely had his hands all over these movies, and you see his comedic genius through them. Like I said, he started in 67 with The Producers. It was kind of the first movie that he came out with, and he came out with a bang. He ended up winning the Oscar for Best Screenplay, for Best Original Screenplay. So his first movie that he directed and wrote, he won an Oscar. So pretty good start to his career. He never would get that again. He never won another Oscar. I don't think he'd ever get nominated for another Oscar. I'm not sure if he got nominated for any of his other movies, but I just know that's the one he won for anyways. But so I started his career off pretty strong as a director, and he go on to direct some absolute comedy classics. I think he wasn't really set out to be like kind of just a parody spoof director, a writer, movie writer. I don't know if that was his goal at all. I think he was just doing comedy, but with probably one of his biggest projects was the Blazing Saddles in the 70s, and that movie was huge for him. Definitely considered one of his greats. People a lot of times look towards that. It's kind of his greatest comedy movie. And that was the first movie that really kind of went into the spoofing parody type comedy. It was kind of parodying the Western. It kind of took the Western and did something totally different with it. And to me, after that, the success of that, he kind of went on this role of just doing parody movies mostly. And those have been his most well-known popular style anyways. Along with the movie Airplane and I forget now, the people that wrote and directed those movies and Naked Gun movies and all that. I think you look at Mel Brooks as really being like the godfather of parody movies. I'm a huge fan of parody movies. I love watching parody movies and spoof movies and all that. So that's why I'm a big fan of Mel Brooks and watched all his movies growing up. In the 90s period, I was watching a lot of Mel Brooks stuff. Anyway, so yeah, so this is definitely a director I'm really excited to get to and talk about his career a little bit, his filmography. I should also note he was born in 1926. So in June 28th, 1926. So June 28th this year, he will be 99 years old. Pretty incredible. The guy has done everything, and he's lived to a really long age so far. Pretty incredible career for Mel Brooks anyway. So a long intro, but we'll get into ranking all 11 movies of Mel Brooks. right, to start my ranking, I'm ranked number 11 on my list. Is a movie that's not really well known and an early movie of his, and it's one of the last movies I actually got around to watching of his, and that's called The 12 Chairs. Again, a comedy that you might not have heard of. I think it might have been like his second movie that he directed and wrote. Again, I can't remember what year. This was late 60s, early 70s. Anyways, yeah, not well known for good reason. It's a pretty boring movie, not that funny. I can't even tell you exactly. The plot is basically that there's money underneath a chair, sewn in underneath a chair, and there's all these people looking for this chair that has money. And you have a young Frank Langella here, which is kind of interesting, seeing a young Frank Langella when he was, more of a leading man type. We kind of know more as a character actor, but he was kind of one of the leads here. I think Dom DeLuise is in here as well. Even Mel Brooks has a small part in here as well. Most part, it's the overall plot's not that interesting. It's pretty boring, not that funny. So it's here at number 11, The 12 Chairs. Number 10, another little known movie that I think I saw once a long time ago, and it's the only movie I couldn't find trying to rewatch these movies, and that is called Silent Movie. Another movie you might never heard of. It's not one of his big named movies again. You might not know about it. I caught it on TV one time. I know Marty Feldman's in it, and there's I think a lot of celebrity cameos. In fact, if I remember right, Madeline Kahn might have been in it. She's in like a lot of his movies. But Mel Brooks is basically the lead here with him. I know Marty Feldman's in it quite a bit as well. But the whole movie is a silent movie. There is no sounds or talking. So they kind of shot a comedy in the old sense where you had to see, a title card, after they talk and stuff like that. Anyway, so it's an interesting idea. It's something different. I put it here at number 10 only because I couldn't find this movie when I was trying to find these movies again. I couldn't find it on any kind of streaming or video on demand. So I wish I could rewatch this. It might be better than what I'm giving it. Because I don't remember much about the movie. So it's here at number 10. Might be better than I remember, but I remember it being not bad anyway. So, but it's here at number 10, Silent Movie. Number 9, I've got History of the World Part 1. Some people might have this higher than me. I don't know. I'm not as huge a fan of this movie because it's not really a movie like a normal it's almost like an anthology of skits. It's more of a skit movie where you have, as it says, history of the world. So they go through different countries and events in world history, and they come up with little sketches for them. It's funny that's called part 1. There's no part 2, except you can go on Hulu, and I think there's a TV series called History of the World Part 2 or something like that. And I've seen like a couple episodes, and it's pretty funny. But anyways, History of the World Part 1. He started even the Bible times. There's one of the funniest moments is him as Moses coming down, and he has 15 commandments, and he says, "Here, God has given me 15." And he drops one of the commandments, and it breaks it into pieces, and he goes, 10 commandments. I got 10 commandments. Like, that is a generally kind of funny idea. There's also a part where he's a waiter at the Last Supper, and he's talking to Jesus and the apostles, and trying to get that. It's kind of a funny idea there as well. Those are some short segments. Maybe one of the most memorable is the Spanish Inquisition, where he has its whole musical number. We're gonna do an Inquisition, and it's kind of this catchy number, but it's all about persecuting Jews and stuff like that. Anyways, but it is a funny, catchy number as well, pretty memorable. One of the major ones is there's a Roman part that takes a pretty big part of the movie, where he's a stand-up comedian, like the first stand-up comedian, and it's during the Roman times. And there's some funny ideas there. And I know, what's his name? Is Hines in it? I forget what other actors are in here, but I don't remember a lot. I just don't remember that whole part not being that funny. And then there's the whole French part where he's a French king, and he has the famous line, "It's good to be king." And it's, of course, the French Revolution is happening. Anyways, that's another big part that's not that funny. I think some of the smaller segments are kind of funny, little skits that he does. But as a part, because it's just a bunch of skits put together, it's not that overall interesting of a movie compared to a lot of the other movies he does. So it does have its funny parts, though. But still, I'm going to put it here number 9, History of the World Part 1. And it's rated R. It's pretty dirty at times. Number 8, I have a movie called Life Stinks, which is one of the last movies he did. Came out in like '91. This is a movie I never heard of, didn't know he did. It's definitely a movie that didn't do well in the box office, or yeah. And the weird part is it's not a spoof movie. Like he was just really doing all spoof movies at this in the '80s period, I want to say, and into the '90s and even late '70s, I guess you can say. He was really just on spoof movie. That's kind of what he was kind of known for and made him money. So he just kind of he rode that train and he did really good movies. And so this Life Stinks. He's the main character as well. He's the main lead, but he plays a super rich like real estate guy or whatever, owns a lot of property, and Jeffrey Tambor is kind of the bad guy. He's very good in the movie as well. He's good as a villain, um, but he's also a rich like real estate developer or whatever. And he makes a bet with him that he can be homeless for I think a month for 30 days, something like that, and he could survive being homeless, something like that. And there's like this bet that if he can do it, then he gets all this. I don't know. There's some kind of bet thing going on there with Jeffrey Tambor, and so then the whole movie is him, a huge, very rich guy, but now he has no money and he's homeless and he's trying to figure out how to live with the other homeless. And so he's a bit of fish out of water, doesn't know how to survive. So makes some friends and they help him along. And of course, through the process, he kind of humbles himself. He even falls in love with a homeless girl in the movie, which interesting. And at the end, of course, Jeffrey Tambor tries to screw him out of the deal because he's a villain. Anyways, as a movie, yeah, it's not super memorable, not super funny. It's got its funny moments. But Brooks still has some decent moments here and there. Mostly before he goes homeless, before when he's rich, he kind of has funny moments. But for most of the movie, it's not terrible. Actually, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's an okay movie. It doesn't have, like I said, it has more memorable moments like a lot of his big movies. That's why it's gonna be this low on the list. Just not that memorable movie. And the worst part is the very end. It kind of everything kind of comes together real suddenly, and then it ends. It's a really weird ending where you're like, oh, it looks like he's going to lose this bet, or he got screwed out of this thing, and then all of a sudden this one thing happens, and then he's like, oh nope, he won, and it's not very good writing of the ending, anyways. But not a bad one to check out if you haven't ever heard of Life Stinks. I think it's worth maybe checking out if you want to get all through Mel Brooks' movies, anyways. But it's here at number 8. Number 7, I have Dracula, Dead and Loving It. I believe this is his last movie that he directed. This is like around '95 or something like that. I remember because I was a kid when this came out. I didn't see it in the theaters. I think I rented it. I remember seeing it with some friends or something like that. I think we maybe rented it from Blockbuster or something. Of course, obviously, as you can tell from the title, it's spoofing the Dracula movies with Leslie Nielsen, one of the great, really the king of the spoof movie comedies, with the Naked Guns and stuff like that, and in the Airplane, and now Dracula Dead and Loving him playing Dracula, and of course he's getting pretty old at this point in the '90s, but maybe one of the last best roles that Leslie Nielsen got to do as well. But anyways, this one, yeah, it's not as funny as a lot of the other spoof movies. Definitely the weakest, I think, of the spoof movies in that sense. Not counting History of the World Part One, but I still think there's some good spoof moments. I'm a what do you call it? I love spoof movies. That's just kind of my thing, anyways. And you know, not that I know Dracula that well, but I saw it recently, so I know a little more about Dracula recently, seeing the original. So there are moments I can kind of see, like, oh, okay, that's spoofing this and this and this. I've seen enough vampire movies that I'm kind of like, okay, I kind of see what he's spoofing in these movies. Again, not the funniest of them. Mel Brooks does play Van Helsing in it, and there's maybe the funniest scene is them killing like a vampire and blood just spurts everywhere. But he gets behind a wall and he lets the student get all bloodied up, and kind of a funny moment as well. But anyways, yeah, so Dracula, Dead and Loving It here, number 7. Number 6, I have High Anxiety. This is a movie you might not know about. It's not one of his big hit movies. It's talked about a lot. Still, it's a solid comedy, and what I like about this one is it's a spoof movie of Alfred Hitchcock movies. So if you've seen some of Hitchcock's biggest films, you will see the spoof in this. And I'm not like the biggest Hitchcock fan, but I know his big movies. I've seen a number of his movies over my time. I read his biography. I talked about it on my channel actually. I read a biography on him. But yeah, High Anxiety. It stars Mel Brooks again. Mel Brooks is starring in this one. Great cast of characters. If I remember right, I know Cloris Leachman has a small part in here as well. Madeline Kahn, I believe, is in here as well. I haven't seen it in a little while, but I do love the spoofs of Hitchcock. Stuff like The Birds and Psycho and North by Northwest. They all get kind of spoofed in some way. There's this great moment where he sings the title song High Anxiety. He's like kind of like a lounge singer kind of thing where they say, hey, sing, hey, do you have a song you can sing? And so he gets up and sings this High Anxiety song. It's actually a pretty catchy song. It's a pretty nice moment. But yeah, I can't get too much into spoofs, but just to say, there's some pretty funny moments of spoofs and stuff like that here. It's a very underrated movie here. At number 6, High Anxiety. All right, number 5. These top 5 are definitely just killer comedies. Some of my favorite comedies. And 5, we're going with The Producers. The original movie, like I said, that he wrote and directed. We got the first movie, basically, well, it's the first acted movie by Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder also had a small part in Bonnie and Clyde, which came out before this movie, but he actually shot this movie first. So this is the first movie he ever shot, but second movie that came out that he appeared in. And Gene Wilder is one of my favorite actors, one of the greatest comedic geniuses of all time. Huge fan of Gene Wilder, and that's why I love a lot of these Gene Wilder movies that he gets to be in. I think he's in 3 Mel Brooks movies here, and this is one of them. Gives a hilarious performance, gets nominated for Best Supporting Actor for being funny. Anyway, so that's always great. If comedies don't usually get nominated unless they're really, really funny. And this is one of those cases. Gene Wilder definitely steals every scene. Zero Mostel, I think his name is, plays the other lead in the role in the movie. It's them two, and if you don't know the movie, it's such a funny idea of a movie where they are producers of kind of Broadway musicals, but they kind of come up with a scheme that if they make a movie that really bombs, they can make money. And I don't remember exactly how they do that, but they kind of, Gene Wilder's character is kind of an accountant or something like that. And Mostrell is kind of the producer of musicals. And so the funniest part of the movie, what makes this movie, is they come across the worst musical of all time. That is Springtime for Hitler, which is a pro-Nazi musical that they come across, and they produce it. And the moment when the audience is sitting there not exactly knowing what's going to happen, and you get that first song, it's springtime for Hitler and Germany, and the audience is like, jaws are dropped. They're like, this is the pro-Nazi musical. Is, oh my gosh, so funny, and it's so well done too. The musical itself is the musical numbers are really catchy, and overall just really well produced. The musical number that you get, and anyways, and how that all turns out, and how it doesn't turn out quite the way they want it to, because the Hitler they pick is like this very flamboyant actor who's a terrible Hitler. But he's so terrible at Hitler that he's actually funny, and the audience actually thinks, oh, this is making fun of Nazis. So they actually get on board with the movie, and it ruins their whole plan. Anyways, it's a hilarious idea for a movie. Reason why he won the Oscar movie. But definitely, if you haven't seen it, you gotta see The Producers. Comedy classic. Number 4, I do have Blazing Saddles here. Like I said, I feel like Blazing Saddles is probably most people's number 1. This is definitely, I feel like, the one that, when you talk about Mel Brooks, this is the first movie that comes up, is Blazing Saddles. It's definitely, like I said, really wrote the blueprint for how to do a spoof or parody movie. And all parody movies kind of, I think, look towards Blazing Saddles and Airplane. I think those are the two that really garnered in what we know parody movies to be and how to do them. Anyways, and yeah, this has never been one of my favorites actually growing up. Um, there's some immature humor in here that I don't like, and there's some humor, yeah, doesn't I don't quite get, but there is some very funny moments, some classic moments, and again, Gene Wilder. I love Gene Wilder. He's so good as the I think the Frisco Kid or whatever, the fastest gunfighter. It's an interesting movie about deals with race. It deals a lot with racism, and that's why it's controversial because there's a fair amount of use of the N word here because it's this racist white town in the West and this really terrible racist like mayor, governor, whatever. Um, they want to, I think they want to get rid of this town for money reasons, and so they terrorize the people. And so then they put this black sheriff in charge, knowing that they will not be happy about black sheriff because they're all racist. And now I'm forgetting the. Sorry, I'm forgetting the main. I have the movie on DVD somewhere. It's in the box probably. But the actor who plays the main character is very funny. In those scenes where he first comes in town and they're all like a black sheriff, and stuff like wait while I whip this out, and him pulling a gun on himself to get him out of the situation, put himself on hostage to get out of the situation. Some of the funniest stuff. And like I said, Mongo coming in and it got some great lines like Mongo only pawn in game of life. One of the great lines. And there's just Mel Brooks again has kind of has a cameo as a Native American, but also plays the governor. Really despicable character in the movie. And what really makes this movie is the very ending where we break the fourth wall and they kind of fight outside the studio, and now they're in another movie studio and they're fighting with those movie people, and then they're on the lot and you see tourists going in, you see actors from different movies as they're having this great big fight scene. And at the very end, he even goes and watches the movie Blazing Saddles, and they're on like the premiere. It was a really funny use of the fourth wall break. I don't think we've really seen up to that point when this movie came out. So it definitely broke a lot of rules and set the stage for, like I said, how to do not just parody movies, but also how to push the boundaries of what you can do in a movie. I think, like I said, it's very controversial, but definitely classic. Definitely has a funny moment. So it's here at number 4, Blazing Saddles. Number 3, I have Robin Hood Men in Tights. Now, this is one that came out when I was a kid, and as soon as I saw it, loved it. Obviously, a parody of the Robin Hood story, really well-known story. Carrie Ells, I think, plays Robin Hood, and as he says, I'm the only Robin Hood with an English accent, which is very funny. But not only parodies Robin Hood, but other things. Just the actors are so good. I mean, we get Dave Chappelle, a young Dave Chappelle here, which is pretty cool. Gosh, I'm gonna forget the name. The King, the guy who plays the King is hilarious. I love his line readings are so funny throughout the movie. I'm sorry, I don't have them all written down, all the names. Even the guy who plays the Sheriff of Nottingham is very funny. But yeah, some of Mel Brooks' best work. You have the song where men in tights. Great moment. I can go through so many moments. There's so many great moments throughout the fight in the castle, and and all that. And the one of my favorite parts is when they do the famous, Robin Hood is disguised and pretending to be a participant in a bow and arrow contest, whatever, and they know he's there, and there's this other guy who's like a ringer who's also very good, and he even hits a bullseye, and they go, "Oh, he won," and Robin Hood goes, "What? He can't win," and he pulls out the script. One of the great moments that's what makes parody so good. Those great fourth wall breaks that you don't expect. When he pulls out the script and he looks at it and he says, "I get another shot," and then everybody, all the other cast pulls out their scripts, look through it, and go, "He gets another shot." Like, it's just so much humor in that one scene that I'm like, that's just brilliance. Also, I love the character who's blind, and so he's always messing up because he can't see. But then there's a great moment where a guy shoots an arrow at Robin Hood, and the blind guy, who's clumsy the whole movie, catches the arrow in midair, and you're like, "Holy cow!" That's like, wow, that's like a superhero move there. And I think Robin Hood goes, "Wow, good job, Blinky." I think his name's Blinky or something like that. Great job, Blinky. And Blinky goes, "Who said that?" Like, one of the funniest laughs. Anyways, I can go on and on. Love Robin Hood Men Types. I think one of his finest parodies. Here at number 3. Number 2, I got Spaceballs. Yeah, I got this on DVD as well. I love Spaceballs. Ever since I was a kid, I've been a huge Star Wars fan, and so what's better than having a spoof on Star Wars, Spaceballs? Uh, really great. Again, some of it's a little on the nose, like Pizza the Hut, but still I find very funny. Or Yoda being called yogurt in here, um, and all that. But I do love you got young Bill Pullman. First time I saw Bill Pullman in a movie playing like the Han Solo character. And then John Candy, great. I've talked about it before. One of my favorite John Candy roles, kind of the Chewbacca role, but he's Barf, half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend. He's got some great moments. You got Joan Rivers here. I'm doing the C-3PO robot. Oh, Rick Moranis. Oh my gosh, Rick Moranis is so funny as Dark Helmet. He's Darth Vader, but he's called Dark Helmet. He has definitely one of my favorite Rick Moranis roles. He definitely has some of the funniest scenes in here, and we get all kinds of stuff like the lightsaber fight at the end, and I'm your some cousin something something former roommate instead of I'm your father. Great parody of that line. Even that whole scene where they accidentally hit the cameraman during the scene, that's a good fourth wall break. Also, one scene where they catch they think they catch the main characters, but they end up catching the stunt doubles. You go, these aren't them. These are their stunt doubles. Stephen Tobolowsky in a very small part. Very funny stuff. So many good Star Wars, parodies like the princess wearing headphones that look like the hairstyle of Princess Leia. So many great spoof moments that every time I see it, just brings me back to my childhood where I laughed my head off when I first saw this movie, and still to this day, I laugh so hard at it. So yeah, Spaceballs here at number 2. So one movie left, if you know what it is, hopefully. The only thing I haven't talked about, and that is Young Frankenstein here at number 1. And this is also my favorite comedy of all time. I've done my top 10 favorite comedies. Yeah, obviously this is my favorite Mel Brooks comedy because it's my favorite comedy of all time. That's why I'm just such a big fan of Mel Brooks. This is actually was first written by, or this was story idea was by Gene Wilder after I guess they did producers and all that. Maybe after Blazing Saddles, Gene Wilder got the idea of writing a spoof movie off of the Frankenstein, anyways. And so he came up with the idea, but he never wrote a screenplay before. So he came to Mel Brooks and kind of said, "Hey, can you direct and co-write this script? Help me with the script to make it, because you know how to write good scripts, to kind of make a good script from what the ideas I've gotten so far, and also, of course, want you direct it." His only thing they said that he doesn't want Mel Brooks to appear in the movie. So it's one of the few movies that Mel Brooks, maybe the only movie actually that Mel Brooks, and producers, I don't think he appears in the producers either, but so it's one of the few movies that Mel Brooks doesn't have a small part in or doesn't, have a co-lead or something. But anyways, it's absolutely hilarious. Gene Wilder playing the grandson of the original Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, but call him Frankenstein because he doesn't want to be related to that or because he's kind of embarrassed about his family's past. So great character arc with him. Of course, Marty Feldman's again steals every scene as the Igor character who kind of assists him in the lab. You got Terry Garr, Madeline Kahn. Very short time, very funny. Love the, can't touch, don't want to mess up my, hair, my nails, whatever. And even when he blows a kiss, she dodges. One of the funniest laughs I've ever had in the movie. Feldman constantly looks at the camera, constantly breaks the fourth wall. I love fourth wall breaks. So he has some of the great ones. You got stuff like, what great knockers. Oh, thanks, doctor. And he's talking about, the actual knockers on a door. To, of course, Leachman, her great comedic role as Frau Bruckler, and then all the horrors, great running gag. Peter Boyle as the Frankenstein monster, one of the funniest scenes of all time. And what makes Gene Wilder one of the great geniuses is his ability to start really slow or start really soft and then ramp it up to 11 and start yelling. You know, he's so funny when he does that. And the greatest scene is when Igor puts an abnormal brain in the monster and it tries to kill them. They knock it out, and then he says, "Yeah, what kind of brain did you put in it?" And he says, "You won't be angry." "I will not be angry." Abby something. Abby Normal. I believe the name was Abby Normal. "You tell me I put an abnormal brain?" It's in a way he starts getting angry. "In the 8-foot gorilla," and he starts choking him. "Is that what you're telling me?" One of the funniest scenes ever. I love how that crescendos into that him getting angry. But there's so many great moments like that throughout this movie. Yeah, I just laughed so hard. To this day, I have it on Blu-ray. Yeah, it's my favorite comedy of all time. Gene Wilder probably my favorite comedic performance of all time in this movie as well. So many great stuff here anyway. So yeah, Young Frankenstein, my #1 favorite Mel Brooks directed movie. And those are 11 movies of Mel Brooks that I am ranking here. Please feel free to comment. How many of these movies have you seen? Have you seen all 11 movies? I don't know how many people have, but tell me what your favorite movie is of Mel Brooks and what you think about Mel Brooks. I'd love to read your thoughts. Besides that, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for liking it. And thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all and hope you have a good day.